Are you in this situation? Okay, you're hitting your irons great, they're traveling really far, we feel like we're compressing it. We get to this, right? Strike goes out the window, and we're actually not hitting it any further than our longest iron. I had this today in the lesson, and I know I've got to share it with you, because if we can get this performing, we see it on TV, PGA Championship, this performs, we shoot lower scores, because we're going into greens with shorter clubs. Okay, let's get into today's video, but before that, welcome to the channel. I'm Alex Elliott, PGA Golf professional. Let's get you fixed. I just want to spend a short time here just going through what I saw and what was wrong with this. I'm going to overlay some slow-mos on this as well. So essentially, coming into the golf ball, had a little bit of an out to in path, but this face was so open coming into impact. We were striking out the heel, and we had these really big glancing shots off to the right. So if you looked at this slow-mo right now, see how your face is being saved into impact. We're striking this very much glanced across it. Now, we often see this when we get to longer clubs. We don't have that ability to feel that separation to start and that ability to control the club. And I think this all stems from wanting to really just give this an absolute massive larrup. We do, won't we? We want to hit it really hard, we want to impress our friends, and we get in that almost that downward spiral of the harder we hit it, the more it fades, the more it slices off. So let's get into today's video and some checkpoints, and 3 little checkpoints that are going to take you from heel strikes, ones that are going way off to the right, into understanding how we're letting that club tumble into position. Let's start off with setup, because if we've not holding this golf club correctly in the right and the left hand, we can't give ourselves the best chance of hitting up on this ball and actually getting a hit out the middle. Okay, so first off, you may already be doing this, but just make sure, it's really important we keep tabs on all of our little checkpoints. Club is in the fingers, and we have 2.5 knuckles on our left hand. Now, what I saw with this student was that this grip was actually not too bad, but our right hand was very much on top of the golf club. Now look what this is going to promote with our shoulders. This sort of a cross motion, also this hand being on top, it's going to be hard to release this golf club, and therefore more likely point to the right. Watch this. My hand very much over. Okay, no real release there. If I do the opposite and go really under the golf club as I have now, look how much more I can release. Now, both of them are wrong, but you can see how having the hand in the correct position, we're going to be able to orientate this club better and feel less saved. More power, more centered strikes. So let's make sure step 1 is our setup, so 2.5 knuckles on our left hand, really making sure, and this is what I want you to feel, is we're going to come into the driver, we're going to feel like we go into our back pocket, we come round, and we come under to grab this golf club. Now look how I orientate my shoulders now. My crease is still pointing into my right shoulder, but I really feel as though now I can hit up on the ball with a more closed face rather than over on the ball with a more open face. And I think that's a really nice simple routine you can just go into. Left hand on the club, address yourself to target, around and in. Right, now I'm good to go. So that is step 1 for us. Let's hit this one away, and let's then move on to step 2. Okay, so that is step number 1, getting this set up right, shoulders, and getting this palm feeling as though it's underneath. The second point I want us to go through now, and I want you to stay from that face on perspective here, and it's all about separating. And this is hard for a lot of golfers, okay? Especially for us senior golfers. You're going to find it hard to separate upper and lower and really feel like our belt buckle works different to our upper half. So I want to think about a nice simple analogy, and the important point for this, if you just come down the line, sorry, just for 1 second, we've got a better grip, which means we've got better control of our club face at point 1. But if we're not separating correctly, this club's just getting thrown so far out, this heel's going to be contacting the golf club. So we need a bit of a simple routine. Now what I want you to feel is, so you can see my belt buckle here, right? if I just roll my jacket up a little bit and make some swings, what I want you to feel, and this is nice and simple, that our belt buckle and our belt loops, okay, so where our belt sits, starts to rotate before middle of our sternum rotates, okay? And this is a nice simple sort of routine and more of a feeling to work through. So I would make some practice swings, not trying to feel movement at the same rate. Can I feel as though my belt as a whole, so there's a hula hoop sitting around my hips. In fact, we can do one better here. So this hula hoop that sits around my hips, if I held that there, to the top, starts to move first. Then the upper half follows. So this is going to allow us to create a little bit more speed, but also start to attack that ball better, which is going to help us get a more centered hit. So watch. This feeling here, so this signified this shaft where my hips were in the backswing, how the hips move first, and then the upper body follows. I think that's sort of a nice simple analogy a lot of us can sort of attach ourselves to. So if we're standing over the golf ball now, we're on the range, and I definitely would recommend being more on the range with this to start. The hoop moves first. This hoop here moves before this. Okay, let's move on to our final scenario. And you've noticed we've sort of got this arc on the ground, and go back to the start of this video where our club face literally at this point was pointing so far out this way. Okay? We wanted to get in a situation where it's squaring earlier. So let's get back to that face on perspective. And this is how we did this. Go and get a hanger out your wardrobe now, and you don't have to have space to follow along with this. And also, if you think all these points sound like me, I don't hit my driver anywhere near as far as I can. Well, you've got strike, you've also got club face and path issues, okay? Grab a hanger and just hold it where it sits in the middle of your hands to begin with. Then we're going to talk about what we want to do. You can do this at home and make some really good gains in your golf swing. I'm going to do it with the driver in my hand, just simply because it looks easier for you guys to sort of follow. So we made a reference point where at last parallel we were sort of somewhere here, hanger pressing onto my right forearm, glancing contact. What I want us to get that feeling of is that club face is tumbling earlier, and we're feeling as though that pressure is working into that lead forearm. Now, my favourite way of doing this is actually just making some one-handed swings with our glove hand, so our top hand on the golf club. Because if I place this just behind my back, logically it wouldn't make sense to try and hit it this way. If I was trying to hit this and give it as much purchase as possible, going back to sort of hammer and nail, well, this wouldn't make much. This feeling of pressing it into the lead forearm, squaring that face earlier, applying that with some better separation, applying that with a better grip, allows us to create a more centered hit, but a better face to path relationship. So if you think of this arc we've got on the floor here, what I want you to feel is the swing works on an arc, but that club face, as it coming down, is tumbling over earlier. So if you come to the down the line perspective now, look how the difference in what we're trying to feel. Doing this one-handed, this will be where we were, not pressing in, face very open. Look how we're tumbling this over. I want you just to hit one away one-handed. Doesn't go very far, but just get a feeling of that is what we're after. This feeling here, and that will do you no end of good just hitting that one-handed. So we go into our final golf ball now, and this is our sort of summary ball here. Sounds like a bloody game show, that, doesn't it? The summary ball. Let's think about this as attaching this to the golf course. We've got some thoughts of separation. We've got some thoughts of tumbling the hanger onto the lead forearm, which is essentially squaring up that face. I want you to walk into a shot, left hand down, into the pocket, one little waggle on practice swing, and really feel as though our club face is tumbled before it passes our hip height. Okay? Into the shot, we're now ready to hit this one away. So there we go. Some nice simple tips for us to work through. Better grip, better stance in that section 1, feeling separation for part 2, and finally getting that club face in a much better position. Remember those 2 slow-mos, good and bad, and how we're going to fix it. Really hope you enjoyed today's video. Don't forget we have daily tips, so hit that big red subscribe button.